Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph Dresden. I'm a Senior Program Associate at the Wilson Center's Kennan Institute. I want to thank you all for joining us for today's event, a quote-unquote Ministry of Truth in 2021, Fighting Fake News the Old-Fashioned Way. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to stay up to date on the latest Kennan Institute events and publications by visiting our website and subscribing to our two blogs, Focus Ukraine and The Russia File, as well as our various podcasts, Kennan X and The Russia File, and our social media on Twitter and Facebook. A final piece of housekeeping: if you'd like to pose a question during this program, please submit it via email to kennan@wilsoncenter.org, via Twitter @Kennan Institute, or on our Facebook page. Please include your name and affiliation when sending the questions. Now, it is my pleasure to welcome today's speaker, Dr. Alexandra Arkhipova. Dr. Arkhipova is a recent George F. Kennan Fellow at the Kennan Institute. She is also a Senior Research Fellow and head of the Contemporary Folklore Monitoring Research Group at the School of Advanced Studies in the Humanities at the Presidential Academy of National Economy and Public Administration in Moscow. She holds professorships at Russia State University for Humanities and the Russian School of Economics. She's a leading expert on political jokes, rumors, legends, the concept of money in traditional society, and on the anthropology of protest, which makes her a great dinner conversationalist. Along with her research group, Dr. Arkhipova is currently engaged on a year-long study of infodemia, the WHO's term for the spate of false and potentially dangerous misinformation that flows through and infects the public discourse, much like a viral pandemic. In her book, Dangerous Soviet Things, Urban Legends and Fear in the USSR, written with Anna Kirzuk, it won the Liberal Mission Prize for Best Analysis of Current Events. And I'm very happy to turn the floor over to Sasha. Sasha, it's all yours.
Thank you, Joe, for introducing me, and thank you, hi, everybody. I really miss you, my colleagues from Kennan Institute. And today I'm going to talk about prosecutions for COVID fake news in contemporary Russia. And it's not my own research. I made this research together with my dear colleague Boris Pegin, who is a lawyer. So we know a lot of inside situation. So what we are going to talk about. So this idea to punish for spreading rumors is not completely new in Russian history. Since the beginning of 1930s, this article 58.10 were used for people who were spreading rumors or telling jokes, and then the title of this article in the criminal code was anti-Soviet agitation and propaganda, and any text, a rumor or joke or, I don't know, contemporary legend, which can be called anti-Soviet propaganda. It was a very dangerous text, and a lot of people were punished and repressed for spreading these rumors. But after and during the wartime, also there was another law, a special law which was punishing people for spreading wartime rumors. And people not only can be sent to prison, but they can be shot on place for spreading these rumors. But after Stalin died, these laws they basically never used. Really, they used a little bit after Stalin's death, but not too much. So, and it looks like that this tradition of punishing for rumors disappeared completely until last year. And now we have two new laws against rumors. And we are going to talk today about these two news laws against rumors. on fake news in Russia, and we are going to talk what is fake news from the point of law enforcement, and how they persecute people, and why people is spreading fake news, so-called fake news and rumors about COVID, and how these law fakes, how these laws call in vernacular, so how these law fakes can be reconciled with support for the freedom of speech. So to answer these questions, we made two databases. We always make a database. So one database, it's a catalog of narratives, texts, rumors, which are spreading in the social network, social media in Russia, and during last 2 years, and we start to collect our data from the January in 2020. So during last 2 years, we collect more than almost already 350 types of narratives, plots, and it's more than 11 million reposts. So it's a huge database, and we know which rumors are more, what type of rumors are most popular, and according to our according to this database, the most popular type of rumors are the rumors about folk medicine, how to treat COVID in domestic ways, of course using garlic, and of course using vodka, and that sort of stuff. And also anti-vaccination narrative. If you, for example, you were vaccinated, but you don't want to be vaccinated, how to neutralize the effect of vaccine? Also to take vodka. So both types of rumors, they are most popular in the Russian social networks. We should remember this fact. We will come to this fact back later. And also we collected case files during last 2 years, where people were investigated and punished for spreading COVID, so-called COVID fake news and COVID rumors. We collect almost 308 case files, and in Russia there is no one single consolidated state database dedicated to such crimes. So what we did, we created this database ourselves. We took information from open sources, because local police stations and local journalists, they published a lot about punishing people for spreading rumors, and also several criminals, several people who were punished for spreading rumors, they sent us their cases, and also their lawyers sent us their cases. So in the end, after pretty heavy job, we have these 380 cases, so we can research how people were punished for spreading rumors, and which rumors are the most dangerous from the point of view of Russian police. So the most boring, here comes the most boring slide. It's about these two new laws. Now we have not only one law of fake, which appeared in the end of 2018, just before the pandemic, but just in the same months when pandemic came to Russia, and the end of March, Putin signed a new law. So now we have two two laws which allowed police to punish people for spreading any type of rumors. Why I'm telling any type? Because in both of these laws, this information, this dangerous information, is very unspecific. Anything can be declared to be dangerous. So, who basically was punished? So the biggest number of prosecutions was in the March, April on 2020, and basically, like many people thought that basically these two laws were used against journalists and human rights activists or political activists. It's true, but not completely. Look at the table. The majority of people who were persecuted, they are not activists or journalists. They are just like common people, like housewives, taxi drivers, students, mechanics, pensioners, workers, and so on. And their only crime was that they published some strange or stupid comment on Facebook. Pay attention to the very interesting fact. There is a lot of very popular media persons who are like professional conspirologists. They were never punished for spreading rumors. So how is the rumor found? Also, it's quite tricky. We have a so-called Center for Combating Extremism. In Russian, it's called Center E for extremism. And it's a special division who finds extremists, terrorists, and political activists. So literally, it's our new political police. Let's us be honest. It's a political police. And they made a lot of research in social media. And they researched social media. They found fake news, a piece of fake news. Then they sent this case to local police, and the local police starts investigation. And after that, the local policeman sent the case file to court. And look at the list of popular social media in Russia. Which is more dangerous for Russian people? It's Contact. It's Contact. The most popular social media, and also WhatsApp. See the line unknown messenger. It's also WhatsApp. Well, we believe so. So basically, if you're writing something in Contact or in WhatsApp, you're in a great danger. But police and Center A, they pay almost no attention to other social networks or social media. It's a tricky question why it's happening. So, so let's look closer which the most popular fake news and rumors in social media. And we remember that the most popular groups are about vaccines and folk medicine. But the tricky question, the tricky moment is that the local police and the Center A, they did not pay attention to all these folk medicine rumors, which represents a real medical danger. And they react very poor to the rumors, conspiracy rumors, and rumors about the COVID origin. For example, I don't know, the COVID was invented by Americans. And they're not interested in anti-vaccination rumors. Only recently they start to pay attention to them, and still it's a very, very low level of attention. What they pay attention, it's a majority. It's narratives which required punishment from the point of view of police, and these narratives usually claim that the authorities, they're hiding information about the epidemic. For example, a typical text of this type. Listen, guys, I heard that they hide a real number of dead people in our hospital. Or this can be rumors that the local government is manipulating the number of ill, sick, and infected person, and they are manipulating the statistics. And also, there's a lot of complaints that the local government didn't pay money, additional money, bonuses to medical health workers, also considered to be rumors and fake news. Also, a lot of complaints and phrases, talks that there is no enough masks in this region, there is no enough medical equipment in this region, there is no enough medical gloves in this region, also declared to be fake news from the point of some police point of view. Let's look at this also very boring slide with examples. For example, we can see this zero number of fake news about folk medicine in court. Very small number about spreading or the origin of COVID. Only 11.5% of fake news in court were about vaccines. But the majority of these rumors were about governmental dysfunction. So that, for example, that doctors didn't get money, or governmental misinformation, that they're lying, that everything okay in our town, people are dying, and we know that people are dying, but government is hiding numbers. And it works in both ways. The government can hide the higher number of dead people or the lower number of dead people. So also, that's how I was telling you. It's a type of legal punishment for spreading fake news, but also there can be another way of punishing. This is so-called pseudo-legal extrajudicial punishment. So during last 2 years, at least in 15% of cases, these people who can be called fake news spreaders, they were forced to apologize publicly, but not to the people, but to the governmental official, the police, the governor, and even to Putin. So it's really so, dear Mr. President, I'm so sorry that I spread this fake news. And these videos were shot usually was shot at the police station, and then under false pretense was posted on websites of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and they were spread. Sometimes they were broadcast on the local television. That's what we anthropologists called ritual of guilt and shame. And these rituals of guilt and shame, they enforce this feeling that there is no way you can doubt the decision of the government. And also it shows you some sort of very patriarchal model of behavior where a citizen must obey your authority, your government, and must apologize to governmental officials like children to strict father because they misbehave. We are absolutely positive that this number of such cases with apology is much higher, but only we can find only 15 cases, but we believe that the number is higher. So what types of rumors are punishable for people? Not the most popular, no. Not those which contain a terrible conspiracy, no. Not the most dangerous for public health, like, I don't know, to drink vodka all the time. No, not the anti-vaccination rumors, of course, no. And popular media persons who are public conspirologists, they are almost never punished. Only one guy who is public conspirologist, he was punished. And many of them, they just avoid this punishment. So, but the object of prosecution are very simple narratives that contain statements very critical about governmental structures, and they somehow threaten the stability of the state. And of course, sometimes these narratives, they are not fake news at all. Like, I don't know, we don't have masks in our hospital, please help us. And people sometimes now in 2021 and the beginning of 2022, people cannot distinguish what is sharing of fake news and what is punishable and what is just an opinion. Just I give you a very simple example. In the end of the 2021, one woman from Yakutsk wrote in the comment to some post that phrase, "They say the side effects of vaccine are dangerous." And she was punished for that comment. Is it a fake news or is it just an opinion? This is a question. For me, it's absolutely an opinion. Of course, it doesn't help to stop spreading fake news. We can see at the last graph here, and I found almost 1.5 million reposts of anti-vaccination fake news during last year. So it never helps. So that will be the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Sasha. It's just a fascinating presentation. Before we begin our question period, I have an update. It turns out that our staff is having difficulty updating our email page. So if you send in a question to our Kennan@wilsoncenter.org website, please find that question and then resend it to kennaninstitute@gmail.com. And we'll get those questions up and over to me to pass on to our speakers. Of course, our Twitter account, Kennan Institute, and our Facebook page are working fine. So please go ahead, submit your questions. And once again, please include your name and affiliation when sending in your questions. So, and I would like to also bring into the conversation Sasha's colleague, and I'm finding that in my
Boris
notes right
Begin.
now. Boris, here we are. Boris Begin is also from Ranyepa and participated in forming the study. So he will chime in on various questions as they come up. So I'm about to get to the audience questions now, but I do have a first one. And I mean, first of all, this half of the stuff seems to come out of George Orwell. It's sad to see him being proven so correctly. over time, that they're not really after fake news, they're after bad news concerning the
Yeah.
government. So I think that is the main takeaway. So it's really quite interesting, and you could say that some fake news is more fake than others. But I have a question about platforms. Are any of these platforms being sanctioned, or is it just individual users?
Well, they according to this law, they're trying to punish individual users, yes.
Okay.
But they also try to force platforms not to publish information. They put a lot of pressure on YouTube, on Facebook, but it doesn't help a lot. But yes, they force them to delete videos and so on.
Okay, I'm going to pass along a question now from Jennifer Brush from SBC Global. She is curious about the jurisdiction of the fake news laws. Does it apply only to Russian citizens committing this crime in Russia? Are individuals working in the state-run troll farms subject to subject to the effects of this legislation? I assume it means that they would probably be coming off their scripts provided them if they're state-run. But do you have any sort of thoughts about are maybe policymakers, or do any officials ever run afoul of this, maybe perhaps by accident? Or is it really just the more normal the person, the more likely you are to face prosecution? Your response.
As I remember, Boris found a case that in the beginning of pandemic, in the big 2 times, local activists was tried to use this law against local government. The local political activists, they blame local government and spreading fake news. But both cases never ended up in the court. The same with trolls and the famous fabric of trolls. They never were really punished for that.
Okay. A question from Alec Kesselman from NIH. She's looking for a bit more description of what punishments that people actually face. Is it mainly just this posting the video, or is also a fine? Has anybody been sentenced to prison terms for this?
It's a fine. So there's 2 types of law. The first one, from administrative code, allows you to give a fine for person or up to 15 days in prison. Basically a fine, but the fine can be very big. Now it's like can be 300,000 rubles, so it's almost like $4,000. It's a lot for Russia, and especially for for regions. And the second law, it's from criminal code. So it allows not only to give a fine, but to make a higher level of punishment. So they can get, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years in prison, but they never did, luckily, yet.
All right. Has anybody challenged this charge in court successfully? And I'm wondering, is truth a defense against a charge of delivering fake news?
Yes, they did. Many people, they they were trying to defend themselves, and they're making the plea non-guilty and so on. And then a big number of these cases later were rejected by the higher court, saying that it's just an opinion, not a fake news.
Okay. All right. So Evgeny Komarov from Voice of America Russian Service asks, how can Putin's political regime use the technology of punishment for the spread of COVID rumors in the fight against political dissent, and in particular the fight against, or at least in the campaign against, independent Ukraine? In other words, is fake news limited to COVID by itself, or can it be applied in other realms of expressing opinion?
Basically, this law appeared in 2018, and they started use it against any information which is not good for government. But basically, in 2020, they use it only against COVID rumors. Now, sometimes they use this law against political activists also, but the number of cases lower. I don't know, like 10 cases against 300.
Another question, this time from Twitter, so please use Twitter. Who does the law give standing to in terms of making such a charge? Is it only the procurator? Is it can citizens point out a case of a conspiracy? Maybe not one of these famous conspiracy theorists who don't get charged customarily. Can anybody point out that what they're spreading is a conspiracy theory and should be charged? Is there any like public pressure perhaps to make the state bring charges against the more famous purveyors of conspiracy theory?
Well, I don't know yet. We don't know yet the answer for this question, but but one of the ideas that they don't want to touch famous people because it will be a lot of noise around it, and they're just simple guys who are sitting in this center air, and they was making some, I don't know, random search in the social media, and they need to punish, I don't know, 50 people per month. They found some simple Maria Ivanovna from Yakutsk, and they punished her. They don't need this fuss around famous conspirologists and so on. Maybe this is one of the explanations, but I don't know why. But we are sure in our statistics they don't punish the famous conspirologists.
It's fascinating. Boris, do you have any comments you want to weigh in on any aspect of our conversation today?
How's your sound? Not good? No, sorry.
Boris is having
Not so
technical difficulties. Okay. Perhaps somebody can text Boris, talking from the Wilson Center side, to see if he has any questions, because I think we can hear what he's saying, but maybe he cannot hear us. Anyway, I'll continue on with another question for Sasha then. So what I'm understanding from your presentation and comments so far is that really this is a case of folks in the state apparatus need to fulfill a quota to demonstrate that they are sort of combating fake news online, but their main targets are people who are easy and will not fight back so much.
Yeah.
And one of the main aspects and benefits for the state is not so much to gain fines, it's not so much the money they're after, but it's these video apologies, which I find fascinating. It's an aspect of harkening back to Samokritika from the Soviet times, where people sort of confess to either in the KGB dungeon or in the Soviet newspapers to falling short of the government plans or for being ideologically incorrect. So is it the main benefit for this legislation and the prosecutions to have videos of ordinary Russians saying, I was wrong, the government's right, everything's fine? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Yes, and this policy of apologizing also, it's much more popular in the south of Russia, in northern Caucasus, and in Siberia, but not in central Russia. In central Russia, the cases of apologizing for fake news is quite rare.
Okay. Another kind of interesting question has come in from Bob Hare, and that is fake news. I mean, did the Russians take this from President Trump? Did they like this term? They like the sound of it and said, oh, what a great idea. He's come with the perfect term for this. And they're using it for their own purposes? Or was this a term, in Russian that sort of existed before and we're just translating it to fake news for our reference.
Yes, fake news in vernacular, fake news, fakery новости, fake became quite popular during last 4 years after 2016. But yes, but in the court files they use another term. Недостоверная информация, misinformation, literally misinformation. So they don't use fake news as a legal term, no.
Okay. Another question coming in, and that is, ambiguity was a key concept in the Soviet Penal Code in the 1980s. Are the authorities today still aiming at achieving maximum self-censorship from the citizens charged under this legislation? In other words, are they looking to get just the most extreme examples of citizens saying how wrong they were and how right the government is, or is it just they will go after anybody that they possibly can, as many people as they can? So is it what's the preference? Is it quantity, number of apologies, or quality? How good those apologies are at making themselves self-abased on a video camera?
I cannot answer this question. I have a feeling this, like the both goals are working in this case. So we need these apologies, and we need them to show that everything is fine. And those who are saying something different are very, very bad people, and everybody should be ashamed of them.
Are citizens charged under this crime, are they often forced with job termination? Do they lose their employment as a result, for being such bad citizens?
In a couple of cases, yes. But we don't know exactly about all the cases. That's the point. Because in many cases, we don't know the name of this person. So we don't know what happened to him or to her. And it's quite a different story from what was in the Soviet Union. Because in these cases, a person can be shown on TV and he was ashamed. Look, this guy was spreading fake news, but they never told his name.
Right.
So it's just one citizen from our city.
Sure. I see. Okay. So they're not, I'm state your name from this city, and here's what I said, it was totally wrong. It's I live in this city, and here's what I said, and I'm very sorry for it. So they don't really identify themselves by name on these videos, but they just present themselves.
Sometimes they're saying their names because they're literally sitting in the police station. They're saying, yes, my name is Ivan Petrovich Ivanov. I'm a mechanic and I made a very, very wrong I made a very, very wrong thing.
I understand.
So
okay. All right, I'm going to pause here and just remind our audience that if you have questions for our speaker, please submit them by email to kennaninstitute@gmail.com. Kennan Institute's all one word, no dots or anything in there. And via Twitter at Kennan Institute or on our Facebook page. And please do include your name and affiliation when sending your question. Go see if anything came in over the last 2 seconds, and apparently we have. That's great. Sasha mentioned that they're not going after famous speeches to avoid a backlash. But what's been the public reaction to these laws? Are people finding it, discomfiting or uncomfortable that ordinary citizens are made to make these apologies in Russian police stations? Does that seem normal to ordinary Russians, or does that seem like, where's our country going that we're seeing this?
Well, it's a very tricky question. Boris and me, we were trying to fight against this law just from the beginning, but everybody was like, okay, another law. why you're so upset, Sasha? We have bigger problems. Look at the tortures in prisons. Look at Chechnya. Look what Kadyrov said, and so on and so on. And yes, there are bigger problems. But nobody realized how bad things these two laws can make with freedom of speech. And it's a very efficient instrument to make pressure on political activists right now.
Yeah, it's not even political activism. I would say it's political discussion. Being a citizen. I mean, if you get the thunderclap from above just for expressing your opinion on social media, you know, I would be afraid if I was a Russian citizen for even being on social media.
Yeah, and very, in many cases, like this political, local political activist who was saying, Magnitogorsk, guys, we don't have masks. Help us. Send us money for masks, just send us masks. And ban. Immediately they got a fine for fake news.
Amazing. One question I have is a lot of Russian official media, and I imagine they're shall we say, troll farms for just a shorthand of it. They like to spread or at least make light of American conspiracy theories, especially around COVID, I'm sure, and take a bit of schadenfreude at what's going on over here in the insecurity. But does that, do the conspiracy theories from the West sort of infect the Russian thought space in terms of what's true and not true about COVID? And does it make the fake news, the non-punished fake news about COVID in Russia more serious or more damaging? In other words, is the infodemia spreading from the West, from the United States in particular, is that spreading to Russia? Is that making the COVID response worse in your country?
Yes, it is. As in many countries, I guess. And infodemic now it's global, and a lot of texts were translated from Chinese. For example, advice from folk medicine, or they were translated from English. Mainly, it's conspiracy. So yes, and it affects people a lot. And the level of rejection, the level of vaccine hesitancy, extremely high now in Russia. So they don't want to get shot, to get booster, to get vaccinated, so on.
Is the Extremism Center really monitoring online activities exclusively, or do they send people out to demonstrations?
Oh yes, yes. They send a lot of their guys to the rallies, and every protester who is not a newcomer, he or she knows how to find out who is a person from this political police center. They almost always have a military haircut. They always have a very old-fashioned camera in their hand, and they look very like strange. They're not smiling; they're just following you with this camera.
The American description is they look like narcs.
Yeah, yes, they are.
A narcotic police officer. That's amazing. One of our global fellows, John Van Uderen, has asked, are there any cases related to news about Putin and his behavior during the pandemic? In other words, anybody commenting on what Putin is doing, have they been charged with fake news? Or is it just about like what's going on the ground locally to them? Is the Extremism Center coming after people who criticize Putin for his response to the pandemic?
Interesting question. One of the most popular rumor during the pandemic that Putin is literally sitting under the ground. He's sitting in some sort of bunker.
Yeah.
And he never left his bunker for 6 months. And it was the most popular rumor, and it was supported by Alexei Navalny in a very humorous way. But nobody was punished for this rumor. They just ignore it.
Amazing. Okay. So a famous international case for vaccine skepticism is the tennis player Novak Djokovic, who was deported recently from Australia for posing a threat to the public health, not only for going in without the vaccine, but attending events and just stirring up the anti-vax movement in Australia. How strong are anti-vaxxers in Russia? Are they, and how is the news about that tennis player playing in Russia? Do they make fun of Australia, or do they make fun of the tennis player?
Oh, no. They support Novak Djokovic. They support him a lot. At least those who knows him and all these case. But generally, anti-vaccination movement is really extremely strong in Russia. And until now, only 45% of grown-up population were vaccinated. Children and teenagers, they don't vaccinated yet. And those who were vaccinated, many of them were vaccinated in mandatory and obligatory way, so they're not happy with that, and they're spreading a lot of rumors, and there was a lot of rallies against obligatory mandatory vaccination in regions, almost 300 rallies. It's a lot. And they managed to stop government from accepting another law. So it's a huge movement. The situation is quite terrible.
So we have David Mitchell has sent in a question. Are there special courts for dealing with misinformation? Or are these handled in regular courts? Or are these handled at the police station? Just if you don't want to go to court, here's our video camera. You're gonna tape your apology right now.
So all the information usually searched by this political police center air, but the whole investigation file, like the paperwork, is made at the police station. Yes, at the local police station. And at the police station, usually they make this apology on camera. In several cases, they ask to write a letter, public letter to the governor. But basically, they just make a video with you at the police station, and then they send it to local court.
Has there been criticism from local populations, like this person was forced to tape an apology for there not being enough masks, or for the hospitals being overcrowded, or many people dying? But that's what's actually going on, right? And maybe has there been any public outcry, like why are you punishing this person when it's a person who's one of the people who are managing our hospitals and pandemic response that should be the ones who are apologizing on video to the population? Has there been any kind of public discussion or outcry along those lines?
There was some sort of noise, but people start too afraid to talk about it publicly. That's such a big pity. It's not a pity; it's a shame. And in many cases, if people are political activists in any case, they're just losing their jobs right now. So situation now it's quite terrible, and it's became more and more terrible every day. So people don't have enough force and enough power to fight for the guy who got a wrong fine for the truth.
So it sounds to me that the Russian government's strategy for countering so-called fake news on the pandemic is not only working on combating the bad news that they don't want to see, but just overall any kind of critical reaction to what the Russian government does, or even local government does. That seems to be the lesson well learned from the Russian population. Is that a correct assessment?
Yes, it is. And also in the beginning of pandemic, Russian government they were lying a lot. They are given one idea, the next day they were given another idea, and so on. So the information was changing very quickly, even official one, but they don't care about it. And they were punishing people for the information which was true. Let me give you a very bright example. In March of 2020, pandemic just came to Russia. Everybody is discussing that Moscow can be closed for quarantine completely, like complete lockdown. And there appeared rumors on WhatsApp, and that we know for sure that Moscow will be closed, that will be lockdown in Moscow. And the Ministry of Internal Affairs declared this to be complete lie. They declared it to be fake news. They promised to punish people for that. They found 2 people. They gave them 2 big fines. And then in 2 days, lockdown was declared. And Moscow was closed. So if this fake news was true, or lie, it was mostly it was a true information. It was a good prediction of future, but they punished these 2 persons and they never took these fines back.
Okay. Pivoting from the political to the public health, we have a question from Ann Carson, who wants to know, how do Russians get their information about COVID and the current state of the pandemic? Who do they believe? Who do they trust? Is it from state TV? Is it from neighbors? Is it from the fake news that somehow manages to filter through on their social media? What would you say in general, people, how do they get their information?
In general, there's a big problem with massive distrust to official sources. And that's why people believe in what next door neighbors said. And that's why in many international fakes, many international fake news and rumors which came to Russia and they were translated into Russian, they appeared a very specific Russian type of frame. For example, there is an international rumor that the helicopters will be spreading some type of disinfection in the beginning of pandemic. But in Russia, this type of rumor was framed like that. The wife of one soldier from the army told us that helicopters will be spreading a sort of dangerous type of disinfection. Beware, people. So there is always somebody who is inside, who is like us. He's a wife, he's a just simple woman, he's a simple doctor. So he or she, he's like us, and he's in the middle of the situation. He's insider, and he knows what to do.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds very familiar to anybody who's been on America's social media as well. A friend of a friend, or I know someone who, or my cousin in this country had this reaction. No, this sounds more and more. When I was a student, one of the theories about the Soviet Union and the United States is that there would eventually be convergence, economic convergence. Our economic systems would look very similar over time. I think convergence was ahead of its time in terms of theory because it's more about information space. I think we're going to have our final question come from, again, Evgeny Kamarov, again from Voice of America Russia Service. To your knowledge, have there been punishments levied against fake news against Western vaccine like Pfizer or Moderna, which seem to be popular among Russian segments of society who can go abroad and get them? Or yes. Is it really just, it's mainly, I'll let you answer.
Yeah, many people want to have Pfizer. They couldn't, but they want to. They were a small number of rumors that Pfizer can give you very bad diseases. But there is no fake news about Pfizer or AstraZeneca, which were an object of punishment. No,
Yeah.
people never were punished for such rumors.
Okay. All right, Sasha, I think we'll conclude on that question, unless you have a final statement to make, or if not,
No,
we'll
let's take a final question. It's good.
Well,
Or it was the final question.
that kind of was the final question. But if you have a final sort of statement to make based on our conversation, it's just a thought for us to lead to the conversation with, please, we'd like to hear it.
Well, there's something good in all this bad situation.
Okay.
And this very small portion of something good is that they make less and less trial cases. They less and less punish people for spreading fake news.
Okay.
I don't know why. One of our explanations is that there is a very big number of people who are fighting against these fines, who don't agree that they're guilty, and it's make a lot of noise, and courts are returning paperwork back. So saying that it's just an opinion, not a real intended lie. So maybe because of that, but more reasonable explanation that our Russian government, they don't want to make fuss, to make angry anti-vaxxers, because the number of anti-vaxxers is very big. And they don't want to punish anti-vaxxers because of that. They don't want to make another, I don't know, big rallies in many cities. So they don't want to make them angry, so they just make it very low.
Well, I guess that's good news that they're fighting. The Russian government has determined that the risks of creating angry anti-vaxxers is more dangerous than people spreading quote unquote fake news about what the Russian government is doing or local governments are doing. So we'll take that good news and run with it. I want to thank our speaker today, Alexandra Arkhipova, and I want to thank our audience for bearing with us through the technical glitch about the email, but we got your questions and we got to a lot of them. I want to invite you all to please visit our website if you want to stay up to date with upcoming programs. By the way, this program has been recorded and will be available for stream on demand later. I also want to invite our audience to check out and listen to our podcasts, Kennan X and the Russia File. And you can always find our latest analysis on our blogs, the Russia File and Focus Ukraine. I want to thank you again to our speaker, and sorry, Boris, we couldn't include you in on the conversation. We will see you next time. Take care.
Thank you. Bye. I was so happy to see you all.